What is up? What is going on? What's good? It's your boy Dwayne bringing you another video. So today we're going to be talking about this. Pretty much this is my 6-month review, or just my review in general of the Canon R6, my thoughts, and do I think this camera is worth it? So let's get started. First off, I want to start by saying Canon did a great job at this. So essentially, Canon is where Sony is back when they first started with mirrorless cameras, and Canon is just not catching up. This camera does everything I wanted to do and more. I know if you didn't watch my last video, which is right here, Canon R6 versus the Red Raven versus the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. I talked a lot in that video about autofocus, and let's just start there at autofocus. So what you have in this camera is Canon's dual pixel autofocus 2, which is a upgrade to the Canon EOS RP and the Canon EOS R in terms of autofocus. In terms of autofocus, as of the EOS RP and the EOS R, the autofocus in those cameras were good, but they just weren't up to par. Now the autofocus in this camera, man, it's a hell of a lot better than what it was in the RP and the EOS R. And I've had both of those cameras. The IAF, you even get animal AF. And the face tracking in this camera is a hell of a lot better than what it was and what it used to be. Like my RP and the EOS R that I had, they would literally hunt for focus. I shot a video when I first got this camera. It was like it was probably at 12 o'clock at night. I had just got this camera. I went to a friend of mine's house and went over there. We had drinks and whatnot. I think I cranked it up to like 12,000 ISO, and I had this 35-1.8 on it. I didn't have this lens at the time, which I'll touch on this in this camera in a minute. It did so great, but I'm pretty sure that the Sonys would have blown it out of the water at a lower ISO than what I had to crank mine up to. It's good in low light, depending on the situation and how much light you can let into the camera, and depending on the lens that you use. I've tried using a 24-70 Sigma Art 2.8, and that is not letting in enough light. I shot a wedding and it didn't do too well. Whereas I used the 85-1.4, and it was damn near dark. And the shots that I got with that, which I put them up on screen right now so you can see them, they were phenomenal. It's just crazy how the autofocus worked, and it was damn near dark, but having this 1.4 aperture helped out a lot. Like if I would have tried that with a 24-70 2.8 or any other lens that's higher, like 2.8 or more, or I should say less in this, or slower in this case, it wouldn't have worked out too well. The next thing I'm gonna touch on is lenses. For the RF mount, there aren't many lenses for the RF mount. If you go on Adorama's website and you search up RF lenses, you can literally find like a ton of RF glass for this camera. That's the only reason I found this Samyang RF 85-1.4 with autofocus. They do have a manual version of this lens, but it's a lot cheaper. I recommend just get the autofocusing one. I think it's like $6.99 or something like that. This lens is great for what it's worth. I'll leave a card for a video right here. The buttons on this camera are in a great spot, and the LCD, it ain't as good, but I mean it's great. I think it's smaller than the EOS R. I'm not too sure. This camera has the same sensor as the 1DX Mark III, which is crazy because look how small this camera is compared to the 1DX Mark III. That's crazy. It shoots 12 frames per second mechanical, 20 frames per second silent. Bruh, as a wedding photographer and a portrait photographer, bruh, like you really, that's just too much. That's doing too much, bruh. And then when you have 2 UHS 2 cards in it, like that's even crazy because there's no blackout on the screen. Like you can literally be sitting there taking pictures and the screen just don't black out at all. Like literally don't black out. The back of it is a hell of a lot better than what is on the back of the EOS R. I prefer what's on the back of the EOS RP, which is literally what this looked like. This looks like a bigger, better version of the EOS RP. That's literally what this is. Now, as you can see the sensor on this, right? But when it's off, it closes. Whereas with the RP, the sensor is just exposed at all times. Whereas the EOS R, the shutter closes and then you see it come back up. Plus it has dual UHS 2 card slots. You should really put either V60 or V90 cards in this camera. I wouldn't recommend putting V30 cards in here just because they're a little bit slower. I mean, it's still a UHS 2 card. If you can afford it, get the UHS 2 V60 or V90. The cards I use are the Lexar UHS 2 V60 128 gig card. This little joker right here. I probably got like 6 or 7 of these. I want to say 8. Why I need 8 128 gig SD cards? I think I got them on sale. They was cheap. I think it was like 50 bucks for 2 cards or like 30 something dollars for 2 cards, something like that. I don't remember. I got them on Amazon. I've never had a card fail on me while I was using this camera at a wedding or even doing music videos and stuff like that. Never had a card fail on me. And then that also brings up another thing where you can't dual record when shooting video with this camera. You can only shoot to 1 card at a time. There's no redundant recording in video mode on this camera. And they also fixed on this camera where on the EOS R and the EOS RP, the mic was like down here somewhere and it was in front of the screen so you couldn't see it. They put it up to the top to where you can see it now. So it's not really in the way, especially when you're doing video. I shot one video with this, which is the second workout video that I did for a company called Animalistic Culture. And I'll leave a card to that video right here. Right now, I would probably say the best lenses that you can put on this camera are the RF35 1.8 and the Samyang RF85 1.4. This is my favorite lens, like literally my favorite lens. If I had to choose between any other RF lens or RF glass, I'd literally choose this one. It's a prime, first off. It is very sharp, second off. And it's just my favorite lens. Like, I can't get over this lens. This camera shoots 4K 60, 30, and 24 frames per second. It also has a crop, which I'll leave in the card right here. It has a crop of 1.05 times. I read that on DP review. Quote me if I'm wrong, or quote them if I'm wrong. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 1.05 times crop. But I also read that it also has a 1.07 times crop. So I'm not sure exactly which one it is. But like I said, I did a video on it, link down in the description. This camera also shoots 1080p at 120 frames per second. I never had a camera that can shoot 120 frames per second, but it shoots 120 frames per second and it looks good. Canon Colors, I love Canon Colors. I said it in my last video with Red Raven, Pocket 6K, and the Canon R6. I love Canon Colors. Can't preach that enough. Now, this camera does shoot 10-bit 422 in C-Log. That's the only way you can shoot at 10-bit 422 in this camera is to shoot in C-Log. I have had this camera a long time, 6 months, and this camera never overheated on me. I never got an overheat warning on this camera. For what it's worth, I live in Florida and it is literally always hot in Florida. I shot a music video, I'll leave a card here, talking about the dynamic range on this camera and how it never overheated on me. And I think it was like 96 or 97 that day. Can't remember specifically, but it was either or. And it never overheated on me. I had it on my Ronin SC, which the gimbal at the time didn't support this camera. And I had to hit the record button every time I wanted to use it. And then DJI announced the RSC2, which I have. And I've used it in combination to do that workout video, which I spoke about prior. This camera takes LPE6H batteries, which is a bump up from the LPE6N batteries. So you get a lot more shots. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 380 shots on a full battery, but I've gotten well over 700 shots on a full battery just using this camera. It depends on your situation and how you're shooting. I've ever only gone through a battery and a half at a wedding, so like I said, it just depends on what you're shooting. You can set custom functions on this camera. So I have this one as my ISO, this one as my shutter speed, and the wheel back here on the back, which I love this wheel on the back. I wish they would have put one on the RP or the R instead of putting that stupid little touch pad thing on there. It was dumb. I don't know why they did. Yeah, this right here, like I can just scroll through photos so fast. I set that as a custom function to my aperture. So when I'm shooting and I'm on the fly, I can literally just press this lock button right here so I don't make a mistake and change my aperture or my ISO or my shutter speed while I'm shooting. And I love it. And it's just great. Like I honestly and truly, I've never felt the need to go out and buy the battery grip. I thought about buying a battery grip. There is a battery grip for it. I think it's the BG10 or something like that. And it also works with the Canon EOS R5. So yeah, I really don't have no cons to this camera. The only con that I do have is that Canon doesn't have a 35-1.4 lens out yet. Samyang doesn't have one. Like nobody has a 35-1.4 lens out for the RF mount yet. Like that's literally my only gripe. If there was a 35-1.4 lens, oh, I'm hopping on that and I'm buying it, because 35 and 85 are my favorite focal lengths. I prefer a prime lens over a zoom lens, but I have a 24-70 because it's so versatile, and you can just it's just so much that you can do with a 24-70. Yeah, bro, like this, my favorite stills camera right here, bro. Like straight up, I recommend this camera. If you haven't tried it, rent it, do that. Like definitely. Like this right here is my favorite combo. After that, this right here is my second favorite combo. This 35-1.8 or this 85-1.4. But that's all I got to talk about for this camera. I don't think I've missed anything. I think I covered pretty much everything on it. So I see that a lot of y'all that watch my videos aren't subscribed. Do me a favor, it's free. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get notified when I upload a video. On this channel, I do gear reviews, I talk tech, I talk just video, and I also do photography, which I got some photo videos that I'm working on. I got some models that I'm planning on working with and bringing you guys some content like photo shoots and how I do my portraits and stuff. But with that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get a bot. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so you get notified when I upload a new video. And yeah, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.